Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mind Space. Now, I put up a comment a few days back and asked you guys what you wanted to see, and well, there was a bit of a clamor for, and based on my viewer count, more to do with deck building stuff. So I've actually got something else for you today. We did Muna in the basics of deck building, so the other deck I want to show today, and I think we might potentially do one of every faction for now, and then go from there. But today we're going to do Yzmir, as I promised. So the Yzmir deck that I have for you today is a type of control. It's something that I've not tested. I'm interested in it. It's very untested, but it is the Kadigir, the Yzmir control Kadigir with a Kesha and Taru. So on screen, as I'm running my mouse around, we're going to be building the deck in the deck builder for the altered system this time. I did use another website for the basics of deck building, but now that we have an official deck builder, I like to go ahead and just use what is official for now. Even though we've had some problems with the app recently, that's understandable, but let's take a crack at what the deck does. So we're going to call it... Kadigir control. It's going to be an Yzmir deck, and it's going to use Akesha and Taru. So, what is the Kadigir? The big landmark in Yzmir is known as I believe it is the Kadigir Tower. Let me check that real quick. As we pull it up, is it the Kadigir Tower? Where are you? The Kadigir Yzmir Bastion. And what exactly does it do? So, it costs 8 mana, it's pretty heavy, but the next spell you play this turn is free. That's going to be important, remember that. So, we're going to want 2 of these because it's so expensive, we don't want to see it in the early game. We don't want to see it... Also, we don't want to see it too late. Once we hit 8, we want to be there, we want to be on top of it. So why are we picking the common, not the rare? That is actually a good question. The rare gives, if you play it from the hand, it loses the fleeting effect, and a lot of cards, particularly spells, the really powerful ones, have fleeting as a way to balance them. We don't need this because, quite honestly, we're going to be playing to the point where if we have to be playing these spells twice over, it's already too late. We're already too far behind. So I will explain this as I show off its paired card, which will be the spell card that we need it for, which is going to be Small Step Giant Leap. And in this case, the rare. Why the rare? Again, we actually want to bypass the fleeting. And it is better to do it on the spell than it is to do it on the Bastion, because this is the only one, I believe, where we're using a spell that has fleeting on it. So if none of our spells have fleeting, why would we use the rare in the first place? However, again, don't think of the Kadigir rare as playable based on the fact that it can remove the fleeting card or a fleeting effect off a spell. That's way too slow. If you are playing the Kadigir for anything other than Small Step Giant Leap, at the moment you're playing the Kadigir wrong. So we are going to play 3 of those for sure. Definitely it's rare because it has no fleeting on it, which means we don't need to play the rare Kadigir, which is better. So what does it do? Target expedition moves forward 1 region. The Kadigir says you can play that for free. So of course you pay the 8 mana and you can cast one of these for free on that same turn. You don't have to wait a turn. The key here is that if your expedition moves forward earlier in the day and meets up with the companion token, or the hero token, the companion token meet earlier in the day, this is automatically a win. The game ends there. You do not play the rest of the day out. So you catch your opponent off guard with the more aggressive late game advance. But how do we get there? Because you can clearly see that we need to reach 8 mana before we can even start to think about these effects, and that means we have to delay our opponent, slow them down, and also still win sides of the board. You can't just expect to not take advantage of everything you can to still win the game. You might not even draw your Kadigirs if you're unlucky. So the rest of the deck is centered around doing this. So let's take a look. First off, we have the hero, which is Akesha and Taro. The after you effects are going to be critical for all your spells. It's particularly a lot of your characters. But let's start with the characters that I think are really important. And I will get to the rares last. And I will tell you why. Because I'd like to explain those rares and why I picked them as rares specifically, so that it can be clearer why I upgraded them from common to rare, and why the commons are better as commons. So the first one we're going to pick, we need to have an eye on what our turn 1 looks like. So this is one of our turn 1 cards, the Yzmir Stargazer. And we're going to be playing 3 copies of it in common. And why would that be? Simply, it's a nice stack curve. 1/2/1, 2 mana, 1 from reserve. It's cheap, effective, it does what you ask it to do. There is literally no other reason to be playing other than it's efficient of a card. The rare is fantastic if you want to play Lindui, but as we're not, we're going to stick with the common. No effect on it, nothing more to say. We can just move straight on to the next one, which is also possible for our early game if we need a really early power play, and that's going to be the common Alice. Once again, fantastic stat curve. Again, a 2/2/4 on a 3, and this is 3 from reserve. Very good. It's just all round a very solid card for Yzmir. The After You ability is important because unlike Akesha and Taro herself, that can only be used while you are the start player. Alice's After You can be played regardless who's the starting player. So it's key to have that bonus ability on hand if you need to buy yourself some time or play around some complicated board of your opponents. Then we have the next one, which is going to be Baba Yaga. We all know this card in Yzmir is great. Draw a card. I've said in multiple videos by now that drawing in Altered is premium, even if that is resupply and draw have their own advantages and disadvantages. Draw is naturally more powerful as it doesn't reveal information to your opponent. And 3 mana 2/1/2 is okay. From reserve, 2 for 2/1/2 is more or less on curve, if not a little better. It is a fantastic card. Once again, all-rounder. No complaints for it. So definitely a 3 of, and I'm very happy. Moving on. I have to dodge that one. That's the rare choice. And we go to Flamel in the common. Now we have our more mid-gamey cards coming up. This is another one that I'm going to be playing 3 of. You'll see that a lot of my cards are 3 ofs, and very rarely am I going down to 1 ofs of anything. That's just a holdover from another TCG. Please don't think that that's something you have to do for consistency's sake. Altered has the added benefit of you may not go through your whole deck in a game, so every card matters. Definitely play 3 ofs of cards you want to see. That translates from TCG to TCG, regardless of the ones you want. You want to play the maximum of the cards that win your games, that advance your game plan, and cards that are very good in situations, but only niche situations, reduce their number. You don't want to see them if the situation doesn't come up. So, Flamel. We are going to be playing 11 spells in this deck, which means he is very good for us because we want to try and put some spells back into our hand if possible to keep casting them over and over again, because if they are in reserve, by definition, casting them out of reserve means they're gone. We want to take them out of reserve if possible, put them back in our hand, cast them again and again and again, and we have some draw in this deck list. We want that draw. We want that to happen. Obviously, his bonus ability there is the next spell you play this turn costs 1 less. Again, fantastic. We're playing 11 spells. We want to be able to cast our spells as often as possible, particularly our draw engines. Again, Flamel is fantastic. On curve 4, 3, 3 for 4, and then 3 from reserve. we need to be able to also keep advancing while doing what we need to advance our game plan. The typical rule of thumb for this deck: always try to win one side every turn. If you can't do that, hold back your resources. Don't throw your resources away to lose. Always commit to trying to win on one side. Don't give away which side you're trying to win, because your opponent will try to plan around that. But in order to keep up pace so that when you get the Kadigir down, you can suddenly take over, make sure you are still winning on one side of the game. So, with Flamel out the way, we're now going to be picking our first tool, which is going to be Dorothy Gale. In the starter pack, she's a very good card, but she is now progressing towards the mid-game, and it is a removal option now. We needed a little bit of removal in this deck, because it turned out it wasn't enough. So the 2 Dorothy is to help with that. It is, of course, only from the hand, and a little below the stat curve. Remember that you don't want to be playing her out unless she is A in your reserve for the 3, because on 3 she is better stat-wise, but she is removal. Get rid of those big bodies, ensure you are winning your side to keep advancing on one side of the board at all times. Okay, so that is our common characters out of the way. We've now got 3 choices of rare, and I would like to tell you as to why. So we're going to start with the first rare, which is the Studious Disciple, or Studious Disciple, depending on how you pronounce it. And there he is. So, not very good stat-wise, but that isn't the most important thing here. The next spell you play for this afternoon costs 1 less. We want spell discount from reserve. That is exactly what you get. He also can do that by discarding himself from reserve. You have options. You don't have to play him, don't have to pay his mana cost. You can just discard him, get those spells discounted. You are going to want to see them discounted. You're going to want to keep playing them and playing them and playing them for value. We'll be going over the spells in a moment as to why. So this is a 3 of. We want those discounts because you might find yourself hard casting Small Step Giant Leap if you do not dig into a Kadigir and you just realize, if I play this now, there's no risk of me losing the game. You might hard cast your Small Step Giant Leap for the final turn. That could happen. So, the next one, and I think this one is a critical card, and the reason why this deck is so could even function, the Hua Mulan rare, the out of faction version. The fact that she loses fleeting, and you want this in your star hand, until removed, until put in discard, until sabotaged, and she is always going to be an omnipresent 2 mana 1/2/2 for your opponent to deal with. And it can just be exactly what you need to stay in the game early game while you're building up. If you have a Hua Mulan in your star hand, don't turn her into mana. Don't turn her into mana. Keep her. Keep her, put her down, and see what she does for you. If you got 2 in your hand, even better. Even better. Run with the 2, because chances are you're going to lose one of them. And it's always nice to keep this going. Her single purpose is to keep you in the early game and to give your opponent something to deal with. So, the last rare character, probably one of the most important cards in this deck as well, is the Kadigiran Alchemist. Have I spelled that out? God, I have. Kadigiran Alchemist. Kadigran. Oh, Kadigiran. Yeah, there we go. Turns out I only have 2 of these myself right now, which isn't great, because we will be playing 3 of them whenever I get my 3rd copy. So, why are we playing this? I think the big yellow text is probably the most important thing. I gain 3 boosts. 3 mana, 4/4/4, and then 1 mana from reserve, 1/1/1. It is just 4/4/4. It is a body above its curve. It's everything you need. Play it last. Play it a lot of... I mean, yeah. That's all it is. That's all this deck wants, is bodies that are big, bodies that are surprising, bodies that keep you playing. You are stalling the game. That is it's not a stall deck per se, you are trying your best to use your spells constantly, rolling them through, making them cheaper, putting them back in hand. The control-y part is in your spells, where you will have removal, you will have some other options, but you need your bodies to be big. And Yzmir doesn't have a lot of big bodies. So the Kadigir and Alchemist is very important for being able to do that. I believe the common only applies two boosts, which in theory you could trade for. You could, if you wanted to swap rares and use, say, a different rare, the Dorothy Gale rare, for example, that could work. I probably, again, I've not tested this, so I couldn't say for sure. This is kind of just me riffling off ideas. But I would probably stick with the Kadigir and Alchemist for now, just because of the fact that it is one of your bigger bodies, cheaper. And if you haven't noticed, our highest costing card so far, other than the Kadigir itself and Small Step Giant Leap, which are your key cards, was Dorothy Gale at 5. You want to be casting a lot of cards in your endgame, and that's what this deck is centered around, having lots of options. You will be drawing a lot if this pays out. So that's all the characters. And we still have 3 rare slots and about 11 spells I would like to add now. So let's start with the first one. We've already added Small Step Giant Leap because that was keystone to the deck. And I would like to show you Magical Training, which I think anyone watching this knows about, especially with the alternate artwork coming up for it. But we're not going to be playing the rare, as all the rare does is discount it in from reserve. This is not important, because in the hope that what we want to do is pay the 1 and then bring it back with Flamel, for example. You could still play the 3 and it would be okay if you are digging for gold at this point, but 1 mana for drawing a card. No argument there, it's great. So, and don't forget, you have multiple discount cards, such as the, where is he, Studious Disciple, who will make that a 0 mana from hand. Just straight up draw card. That can be a very good conversion. So, the next one we want is the Off You Go. And we will also be playing this at the common. I have made a mistake with the spell. Hold on. Magical Training. Magical Training. I also need to... Magical Training should be a 2. All the spells are 2 ofs, not 3 ofs, with exception to Small Step Giant Leap. Space was really starting to press on how to work out deck balancing. Okay, so Off You Go is, again, removal. Relatively cheap removal from hand, which is why Flamel is so important, because Yzmir's spells tend to be more expensive when they hit the reserve. And we don't want them to hit, once they do hit the reserve, we don't want to cast them for that. We want to bring them back to hand as much as possible, which is why Flamel is critical to get some of those back. Once again, 2. Make sure you use your removal to always try to win one side. Don't try to win both sides unless there is a very clear path to do so. You probably won't see that until more towards the end game, when you have more options and more mana to work with. Again, early to mid game, win one side, control one side. Doesn't matter which side, each turn you can swap, of course. You don't have to only win on the hero side, but keep yourself in mind that you need to control what you're doing so that you don't lose both sides, especially more than once. If you do it twice, you're probably not going to recover from that overall. So another one that most people will know of is Spycraft. Another 2 of. First off, Sabotage. Secondly, Resupply. This is a fleeting card. I did say that none of them have fleeting. I told a Porky Pie a lie. It is fleeting, but this is not really that much of a big deal. Don't cast this with the Kadigir, please. You're looking simply for the removal to keep problematic threats from being replayed, and of course the resupply is draw. Always important. And I believe the last one of the spells is the Kraken's Wrath, another removal. Yeah, here it is. Another one with fleeting. Oh, I completely told lies. I did not check over this deck list before I decided to make a video on it. In any case, it is send up to reserve 3 target characters with hand cost 5 or less. Remember, if they are fleeting, they cannot go to reserve. They are discarded. Target those fleeting ones. And tokens have a mana cost of 0. You can throw out 3 token characters, like 3 Ordis Troopers. Make sure you take advantage of the total hand cost of 5. So you could target 2 tokens and a 5-costed character. No problem. Again, removal, critical for the control element, adding 2 to the deck. And that will be all 11 spells. Ooh, Dorothy Gale is 1 out of 3. That's wrong. Any of you who spotted that and were yelling at me that I didn't add? Well, apparently I did. There we go. As I said, the website's a bit funny. Well, with that in mind, we are now up to 36 cards, meaning there are 3 missing. 39 cards plus hero. Well, it turns out there's just 1 more left. And I would like to add the Ordis Carrier. Here we go. At noon, create an Ordis Recruit. Most people who play Ordis know this. Again, it's just adding more bodies. It's adding more numbers to your sides. It's... Keep in mind that this is only the companion expedition. But having that body automatically go onto the board makes your opponent think. They might just go all in on the hero side, giving you the companion win. Or they might start trying to do stuff in the companion side, which lets you fall into the hero side. And in a worst case scenario, it's 1-1-1 that you didn't have before. We will be putting that up to 3 in its rare form. And the reason for that is it's out of faction, so there is no common. And you would like the generation effect of it. So there we are. Oh, it says it's not legal. I wonder why. Is there something I missed, I wonder? I wonder. Not legal, maybe because I don't own all 39 cards. That could be the reason why. Which was a little unfortunate, as I said. I will be able to get those cards soon. In any case, those are the 40 cards. I'm unsure why it's giving me the not legal. Outside of I don't own it. I assume it's because I just don't own all the cards. But yeah, maybe give that a whirl. And if it turns out for you and does well for you in locals, give me a shout. The only suggestion I have is I didn't choose any uniques. That's quite simply because I lack a lot of, in fact, we can do this real quick in the video. I lack a lot of unique cards for Yzmir. I've got a few. In fact, maybe... Oh, well, wait a minute. What about this Flamel? When I leave the expedition zone, you may return a spell from reserve to your hand. When a card leaves your reserve during the afternoon, you may pay 1. I stand corrected. I think that Flamel is very much something we would want to play. That is, of course, my Flamel. If you have a Flamel, I'm going to check out the Huamulan unique as well in a second. Of course, with the spell Recursion, the fact that I have a Flamel that does that on leaving the expedition zone means I can get that effect twice, whereas the common Flamel, I'm only going to get that once when he enters the field. And with it specifically stating when he leaves the expedition zone, if my opponent removes Flamel, that's not a problem. The effect will still trigger. As for Huamlan, Up to one target character gains fleeting. That's partial removal. At dusk, you may put a card from your hand in reserve. It's a spell. That can vary. That can vary. I'm not sure I would add that into this particular deck. Easy Talk can sometimes be good, but I don't think mine was. Yeah, 7 mana. By the time you are playing stuff for 7 mana, you are trying to close your game and think about the Kadigir at this point. So I wouldn't play that either. And I don't think I have Season. When you play a spell, you may gain 1. If you do, I gain 2 boosts. This can be hit and miss. I think this is probably worth testing. If you have something similar, worth testing. Keep that in mind when you're playing so many spells and trying to cycle them out. That is absolutely an option. You discard everything. I gain 2 boost. You may return a spell from your reserve to your hand. Okay. I would swap one of the Studious Disciples for this. That's definitely would be another one. But these are my uniques, of course, and not ones that you would have access to, at least these specific wordings with this specific text, with this specific mana cost, and such and such. Take a look at your own uniques. Try to make them fit into what your deck is trying to do. Don't make your deck fit around your uniques. It is better to make your deck work properly with no uniques than to force them to work with uniques that don't quite work with them. Well, that being the case, this one's been a long one already. I hope you enjoyed this one as well as the last one. This has been the Mind Space once again. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.